Greetings, mages of the old world, and welcome back to another video about magic. We are not trying to reinstall the College of Magic or the Colleges of Magic, but we are here to guide you through the laws. And today we are looking at Elementalism. Elementalism is my kind of law because it's kind of close to the law of life, which was like my go-to law in 8th edition. So I'm looking forward to us going through and reviewing this one.
I know why you like this law, Dan.
Why is that?
You like this law for Wind Blast, and that's it. Anything to mess around with someone's movement makes you happy.
Right, well, we will get there. But as always, let's begin with the signature. So the signature is Storm Call, which is a hex with a casting value of 7+ and a range of 12 inches. Until your next start of turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -1 to its movement and initiative characteristics to a minimum of 1. If this spell is cast, the effects of any other hex previously cast on the target unit immediately expire.
I think it's all right, to be honest. I think it's the casting range. I think it's too short for my liking with that spell.
That's funny you say that, because in my notes I've got here, I've put range too short. So yeah. We both agree on that kind of straight away. I think one thing just to say straight away is it says here that if you cast on it, any other hex previously cast on the target immediately expires. But not all hexes work like that. So you could cast this hex first and then a second hex and one where it doesn't make it expire. It's just, I don't know why it does it that way round, but it just makes you do things in that order, which is just a bit strange, really. And as for its results, I think, obviously, you've already alluded to the fact that I like messing around with people's movement. We've talked a fair bit about zoning, haven't we? And about how you could potentially zone someone out with this spell and then move up. And a decrease to the initiative. Initiative is always a good one to debuff for your opponent. And sometimes that extra 1 will mean that you are striking first. If you do this and it gives you, and it puts you past the point where you are then going to strike the enemy first when it gets to combat, it's definitely worthwhile. But 1 point may not do that. So, yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, like, if you found yourself out of position and you've got a unit of dwarfs with great weapons just about to charge you, so they'd be striking at initiative 4, maybe 3 or 4. So if you get that -1 off, suddenly you can strike first, and that could be game changing in that combat.
Yeah. So has its uses. Not the best signature out there. Short range. So your wizard pretty much has to be the unit that's going to get into that combat or be right at the front lines to be able to cast it.
Yeah.
There's no hiding behind the lines and casting this one.
I would be looking at this as I'd probably ignore the -1 and just be looking for it for the -1 initiative instead of the movement. I'd ignore that movement part because you're in the wrong position if you're relying on that, I think.
Yeah, or maybe there's a risky charge and it might help, but yeah, I agree. All right, shall we get into the law itself?
Mm-hmm.
So, spell number 1, Flaming Sword. This is an assailment spell with a casting value of 8+ and a range of combat. A single enemy unit the caster is engaged in combat with suffers D6+1 strength 3 hits with an AP of dash. These have the flaming attack special rule.
I don't know, Dan. I probably wouldn't take this.
There's better spells cast on an 8+.
On an 8+.
If we go back to Battle Magic, there's spells cast on a 7 and things like that. And
yeah,
there's better
even in this lore, there's better spells cast on an 8+.
Yeah. I mean, D6+1 hits potentially is quite. I think it's good. It's going to be good against chaff. So for me, as a Wood Elf player, if somebody charges into my Glade card, they're strength 3 with no armor save. And I have to have 1 unit of them. They're 1+. And if someone charges in with them and they do 7 strength 3 hits, AP of dash, 3 or 4 are going to die. and there's like 10 in the unit. So you could reliably wipe out a third with a good roll of a unit of chaff if it was really, really bad, poor elven just wearing cloth chaff. But that's the only time this is really going to help you.
And you're probably going to have something in the unit that's going to do similar anyway. So I don't know.
Or better.
Or
right,
better.
Shall we move on?
Move on. I'm not feeling that spell.
All right, Plague of Rust. Let's turn it up a notch. I like Plague of Rust. Plague of Rust is a hex. It's got a casting value of 9+, and it has a whopping range of 21 inches. Until your next starter turn subphase, the target enemy unit suffers a -2 modifier to its armor value. This spell may target an enemy unit engaged in combat.
That's a bit filthy. I really like this spell. Suddenly, my Bretonian Knights are now armor save 5+, and that's scary.
It's what's brilliant about it is that you can pick a unit 21 inches away, so all the way across the table. And it can be engaged in combat, it cannot be engaged in combat. If it's not engaged in combat, suddenly bows, blowpipes, javelins, everything starts to look really good at shooting that unit. It's like much better than the Curse of Arrow Attraction that we looked at in Battle Magic, which gives you a bonus to hit a unit. This, like, once you've hit and wounded this unit, it is done for.
My concern is with this, right, is your Bambis with your mage in. Your I can't think about what they're called now. Your mage bunker rides up, Sisters of the Thorn.
Yeah.
They ride up, they throw this on my knights, and your archers are 32 inches away, and just ping them off the table.
What's also really good about this spell is that your unit suffers a -2 to its armor value. If I attack it with a great weapon, and I've got +2 rend, it's now got -4 to its armor value.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to chew through those units. That Chaos Lord on Dragon with his 2+ armor save. You need to use a spell like this and combine it with something that is AP 2 or 3. You want to cast this and then cannon it.
Yeah, that would do it. And your Arcane Bodkins with their armor bane. So they're -3 if you roll a 6.
Yeah.
So that's his armor gone.
This is a really, really good and useful spell with a fantastic range. It's great that you can target an enemy engaged in combat, because a lot of these hexes, you have to cast it and then you have to get into combat, and then if you're locked in combat, you then can't cast that hex anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Just it's a game changer, is that you can cast it, and then with the vision of going in and being stuck in for a turn, or if it goes a bit Pete Tong and you need a boost to get over the line, you can throw this into the combat and get away with it.
Yeah, I love this one. Really rate it. All right.
Maybe if you combine it with Flame of Swords, could be quite a bit of synergy there, because your heavily armed troops, suddenly they've got no armor save, so you're doing D6+1 hits.
Strength 3 AP of
Strength 3 AP. The AP doesn't matter because you're getting the AP from Plague of Rust.
That's a good point. That's a good point. All right. Next is Summon Elemental Spirit. This is a magical vortex with a casting value of 9+ and a range of 15 inches. Remains in play. Place a small 3-inch blast template so that its center hole is within 15 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template is treated as dangerous terrain over which no line of sight can be drawn. The template moves d6 inches in a random direction during every starter turn subphase. Any enemy unit the moving template touches or moves over suffers d3 + 3 strength 4 hits, each with an AP of -1.
I think that's quite good.
It's got multiple utility because it blocks line of sight, so you can put that in front of a cannon or something like that if you want to stop it from seeing or shooting you. It also causes damage when it moves over you.
Yes. And anything caught charging like cavalry or what are they called? Chariots called moving through it take the dangerous terrain aspect as well, do they not?
So you want to cast is probably just touching a unit of cavalry or chariots,
Yeah.
and then do those hits, and then have them have to move through it, unless it scatters off, and then or potentially put it in front. Also, you can't draw a line of sight in front of it. So if you're looking at the forward arc of a lance formation, which is actually quite narrow, I wonder if that 3-inch template at the front, probably you'd still be able to, you might be able to block line of sight significantly enough that someone can't draw a line to a unit that they're looking at charging.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a really good point. I don't know.
You might not be able to cover off the complete front arc, but you only need to obscure line of sight to that particular unit.
Yeah, well, if you flipping heck, it depends on where the line of sight's declared from on the lance. If it's the first model, you could completely block it.
No, it's the next rank back. So it's from 2.
Is it?
So I think you probably still could.
Yeah, I reckon you could.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not 3 inches apart, are they? So yeah. So yeah, that's a good spell, I would say, for trying to stop people from charging you, making them take dangerous terrain checks, blocking line of sight, and causing damage. It does a bit of everything, that spell, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And the damage it causes is quite good.
Yeah, it's cool that it's D3 plus 3 instead of D6. So the top range is 6, but the bottom range is 4. So that's it makes it more reliable, definitely. All right, up next we have Earthen Ramparts. This is an enchantment with a casting value of 10 plus, so quite expensive. It has a range of 15 inches. Until your next starter turn subphase, the target friendly unit gains a 5+ ward save against any wounds suffered and counts as being behind defendable low linear obstacle if charged. However, whilst this spell is in play, the target unit cannot march or charge. All right, Tom, so what does it mean to be behind a defended low linear obstacle if charged?
So being behind a low level linear object when you're charged means the charging enemy unit does not get its initiative bonus for the distance it's charged. Also, it counts as being disrupted, so it doesn't get its rank bonus. And in a game of charging and initiative, I think that is brilliant. That is up there with one of the top enhancement spells for me.
Yeah. A 5+ ward save
is good on its own.
Yeah. And now it's 5+ ward save.
Plus and you're not getting your initiative.
If you get charged, you strike.
Yeah.
Initiative versus initiative.
But so it's 3 points harder to cast than Oaken Shield.
Yeah, but it does more than Oaken Shield.
Yeah.
And also, Oaken Shield is only the wizard's unit, whereas this is you target a unit within 15 inches.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like, if you're casting this on a unit, it cannot move. So you know it's going to get charged and boned by something.
But there are some units that you have that you know are there to get charged. For example,
Lothra Seaguard.
Yeah. Do you remember I used to play Soft Center, didn't I, in 8th edition? With my mage bunker and entice people down the middle and then close in on the flanks quite a lot. There's always people are always going to be going for your mage bunker. They're going to go in for your general. They're going to go in for banners. You know this. There are targets that are tasty to charge. And that really helps them out. It just gives them that survivability of having the 5+ ward and gives them a chance to swing back if they are charged.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of just bombing swordmasters up the middle of the board. And then when you're in enemy territory quite comfortably, cast this on them. And just, stand there and come at me. I'll hit you back at initiative 7 with a great weapon.
Yeah. Well, not even hit you back. I'll hit you first,
even though you
charged me. It'd be like that scene in Lord of the Rings, isn't it, where they're ready and they receive the charge. And then...
I think that's really powerful, that spell.
Yeah, it's a great spell. All right, next is Wind Blast, and this is obviously the most important spell because it messes with people's movement. So this is a magic missile. It has a casting value of 8 and a range of 15. The target enemy unit suffers D3 plus 3, strength 5 hits, each with an AP of -1. Once these have been resolved, the unit must give ground.
That's frustrating. Because I just picture your wood elves every time you're just about to charge them, and they're just go, no, fall back, please. Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, the UK has been battered by some storms recently. I was talking to someone, like, they must have gone, since I've moved up to Liverpool, I swear we've had a storm every single day. It's like, I think we've run out of letters of the alphabet. You know, we're going back to the A's again, naming them. But I don't know that it does D3 plus 3 strength 5 hits with an AP of -1. That's some wind, isn't it?
That is some wind.
But yeah, I mean, it's a very hard hitting spell, that's for sure. Strength 5 is great.
I'd take D3 plus 3 strength 5 AP1 hits. I'd take that on an 8+ every day.
As a magic missile, yeah. And then giving ground is great because I think moving someone back 2 inches will really help when you are, when you're looking to get into charge range. Talk about zoning. Charges are much shorter now as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
2 inches is going to make a difference, definitely. So yeah, I think you're right. You just get into charge range, especially with an infantry unit. You don't have swift stride. You just pick in the highest D6. 2 off of that is going to stop. It's going to stop people charging.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good spell. All right. The last spell is Travel Mystical Pathway. And it's funny, just before we go into the spell, I just want to say, just think about spell number 4, Earth and Ramparts. This is on a unit that hasn't moved or can't move, and you're drawing them down into there. They're the target of a combat. So this is a conveyance spell with a casting value of 10 plus and a range of 9 inches. If the target friendly unit is not fleeing and has not already moved during the movement phase, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield and replace it anywhere within 12 inches of its original location, but not within 6 inches of any enemy models. The target friendly unit cannot move again during this movement phase.
Oh, it's just like the Moonstone of Hidden Ways all over again. I hated that. I think that's a good spell. I think it's really, really strong.
Yeah, I think it's definitely useful because it gives you a 12-inch move, which is quite high. There are units out there that won't be able to move 12 inches even if they march. You can be moved 12 inches away. It is situational because you still have to be 6 inches away from an enemy when you're put down. So, if there's lots of enemies around you, you're gonna get zoned out of being able to use that spell.
Yeah, but if you're playing a tournament game and you come down to the last turn and it's all about protecting victory points,
yeah,
just move it out of everyone's charge arc straight away.
Yeah. And also, I think it can be used to put yourself in a position where you've drawn someone down the table, and then all of a sudden now you've moved and you're in the rear or something like that, and it can begin to cause problems for your opponent and really have to make them think.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those spells. I think we said it before. Your assailment spells, you're in combat, so you just roll the dice and you do some extra damage. This is a spell that needs to be in the hands of someone who kind of knows what they're doing, has their head around the movement phase, and has got a bit of a plan on how to use it to then start to cause problems. Because if you had a unit of cavalry potentially lined up for a flank charge on one side, and then you moved another unit to the other side, it doesn't matter which way the enemy unit ends up facing. They're gonna face a rear charge. So it can be really, really good. but you have to be
You-
smart with how you use it.
You have to know the ins and outs of the mechanics of the movement phase to really get the most out of it.
Yeah, and you have to be able to use it when, on a unit that isn't completely bogged down and surrounded by the enemy, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And that takes us to the end of the lore, Tom. So you are there with your lore familiar, and they are letting you pick the spells of your choice. Which
Yeah.
four are you choosing?
So I know I didn't particularly like it at the start, but I am going to take the signature, that -1 modifier, and I'm going to take Urban Ramparts. So not only are you going to get to charge in with no initiative bonus, you're going to charge in with -1 initiative as well. So I'm 100% taking Plague of Rusts, because I think that's just value for the whole army.
Yeah.
And then the difficult one is Wind Blast. No, it's not. It's not that difficult. And Wind Blast. So Stormcall, Plague of Rust, Urban Ramparts, Wind Blast.
Okay. I'm going to go slightly different. So I'm definitely taking Plague of Rust. That is, I think, an auto include if you've got a lore familiar. That debuff is just really powerful. I'm going to take Summon Elemental Spirit, because I really like that it blocks line of sight, and I think it could help me resist some charges. I guess the thing to bear in mind with that is also you are unable to charge the enemy, because you then can't draw line of sight to them either. But I'm going to take that one for that reason, to buy me a bit of time there. I'm going to take Wind Blast, because I like the damage that it does, and I like that it makes a unit give ground. And then I'm going to take Travel Mystical Pathway, because I think it will come in clutch, and it will save me. It will save me those 50 points for not losing my banner in the last turn of a game somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah. All in all, Tom, what are your impressions of that lore?
I really like it. I think it's very strong. Very strong indeed.
I think it's got lots of fun mechanics. It's not as straightforward as some of the other lores that just deal damage or straightforward buff for your troops. There are some things in there that you're going to have to think about a little bit more potentially, because the movement phase is a bit of a funny and fickle phase. But yeah, I really like it, and I'm looking forward to taking it and trying it. Definitely. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, because next time we'll be back looking at high magic. Those janky pointy-eared elves and all their tricks. And we will see you then.